Another wonderful day and another wonderful episode of Face Forward Summit. Welcome, ladies. I am so excited today because we get to talk to a beautiful, beautiful Paradise Rodriguez, who is with us. She's all the way in New York right now. We are recording this in the middle of the biggest coronavirus spike. So she is okay. She's staying home. She looks beautiful, as you can see. So we are going to talk about her fashion model background. We are going to talk about her actress experience, her being an author, Harvard student at the same time, running some nonprofits and standing for children who are misplaced. We are going to talk about a lot of things. But before we get into all of that, I want to welcome you, my dear. Thank you for being with us on Face Forward Summit. And
Thank you for having me.
yeah, it's a pleasure. We are honored. And I would like to start with your story because we got on the phone not that long ago and you shared your story with me, and it was mind-blowing to me. It was just like one of those, where you're like, is that even possible for that to happen in one lifetime? So please share with us how it all started for you.
So I come from a very, very diverse background. My mother's side, my gran is from Ireland, but my grandfather's from France. On my father's side, my abuelita is from Puerto Rico and my avi is from Spain.
Yeah.
And I ended up here. So it is, my bloodline runs all over the world. But growing up the way I did in a very toxic environment, I didn't always I didn't always have the luxury of knowing who I am, where my background came from, or being able to have the freedom to express who I am and who I wanted to be. My childhood was very difficult, and I ended up raising my siblings and myself. My sister passed away when she was 7 years old, and it was difficult. It was the first time that I made a huge sacrifice. I ended up leaving high school, and that was a big deal to me because I knew back then I wanted to go to Harvard, but family first. My siblings were most important to me. So I said, okay, if this is meant for me, I'm going to figure out a way to make this happen. So, you go through life. And I got to the point where I said, who are you? What do you want to be with your life? And I said, well, I have to do something with children. I started a daycare and there was 14 kids. And I realized I'm not the only one going through this with abusive parents and neglectful parents. So I have to take my experience and try to help someone else. I started the Catch a Falling Star Foundation that year, aimed to eradicate human trafficking, displaced children, and just create a safe haven. I don't like to use this word safe space, but essentially that is what I am aiming to create, a place where people know no matter who you are or where you come from, someone cares about you and you're not in this alone. And as I got older, I started figuring out about my career. I decided I want to do theater, I want to do modeling, things that I wasn't allowed to do as a teenager or a child. And so I said, okay, well, before I try to tackle the world, let's figure out who Paradise is. And I started writing, and I've always been an avid writer. And I said, okay, let's keep going. Got to do my first professional shoots. I was 17, and it was crazy. I was like, this is the world for me. And as I kept going, I said, but I need more. I want more. I want to be more than just another pretty face. So I got into pageantry to start, leveraging my community service with my modeling. And that has been absolutely fantastic. I am right now the current USA Ambassador of Miss New York. So it's been great. Except for this virus is kind of keeping me indoors. I'm getting a little cabin fever. Growing up, it was never just about Paradise. It was, what can I be more than myself? I saw my siblings and I said, okay, they're looking up to me. I have to be a role model for them. And I realized everything I did, they were going to repeat in some way or another. And it had me thinking, does this mean the other youth in the world that I meet are going to start repeating my behaviors? I never set out to be a role model per se. I just wanted to be someone healthy for people to come and talk to. I had my fun. I'm in my 20s, let's go to the bar, but I was never the type to, get overly intoxicated and wind up somewhere I don't belong. If I got drunk, I said, okay, well, I'm going to go home with my friends. I believe in responsible partying in all things. I do not believe in doing excess. If you're going to have a few drinks, then, have your food, know how you're getting home, know the people that are going to be around you. And so I started taking those lessons into my adult life. When I started my business, I said, okay, well, you need to know your environment. Are you comfortable enough to have these people in your personal life? Are you comfortable enough to go into a business deal? Your money is for your siblings. So if you lose this, you're going to hurt them. So wherever you put your energy, your effort, remember that it's going back on the people who depend on you. So I started looking at my business contacts. Okay, are you healthy? Are we in the same vision? Are we same goals? And there were ups and downs, but I think I got really where I needed to be. And in 2017, I took off across the world for a couple months to find myself. It was a journey, and that's essentially what Finding Paradise is about, my novel. It's finding oneself throughout a tumultuous journey. I suffer from depression. I suffer from trauma. I lost 5 years of memories in 2014. A lot has happened to me, but I'm still here. I have this quote: you can sit in the corner and cry, or you can go out and dance in the rain. Either way, the storm is coming, and I truly live by that.
What a great attitude to have, and that discipline that you had as such a young adult, right? Through your teens and through your early 20s, like you were disciplined enough and responsible for those children enough to make all these amazing choices for yourself. I mean, that's wow. Wow. It's amazing. So what I want to ask you next is, you mentioned that you lost 5 years of memories. That was due to your brain injury. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so you do not have any recollection of that time, but you're able to move past that and you're able to create something amazing and even get yourself to Harvard now. So tell us about what that was about, or what did it take of you to become that person?
Well, I'll be honest. I am strong, but boy, do I give myself a hard time.
Mm.
So I'm also an ovarian cancer survivor. So in the midst of waking up and realizing I have no idea what has been going on in my life these past few years, I shut down, to be honest. The first, I wanted to say 6 to 8 months, I was like, no, I don't want to deal with the world. I
Mhm.
was reading books, catching up on music, technology. I'm a huge computer nerd. I love to code. But technology had changed so much in 5 years. So it
Mhm.
was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know how to use my phone, my laptop, everything was different. What once was a bookshop of books was now on a device. I was like, wait. So I took some time to adjust.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, for some, that meant cutting people out of my life. Thankfully, Facebook has Messenger, so you can go back years and years, and that helped me a lot. As a guy that I was very close to and had been in a relationship with had actually stepped up a couple of times and said, hey, so we were in a very serious relationship. This is what it was. This is who I know you to be. And I said, right. And I tried for a while, about a year and a half, to be the girl that everyone remembered. And I just couldn't. I tried, doing things that were familiar that people said, oh, well, you enjoy this and you eat that. But that wasn't who I was. And one day I said, look, this is too much. I'm not her. I, I'm sorry. I know you all have lost someone, but I have to figure out who I am now. And so I went on this journey of saying, okay, Paradise, who are you? Who do you want to be? I retaught myself guitar and piano. I learned a couple more languages. I got back into ballet, things that I knew I was passionate about. And people would tell me, they go, well, these are still pretty much the things that we know you to be. You're just a lot more closed off now. And I understood. I said, well, with all due respect, I value my wealth, I value my energy, and I value my space. And if we are not speaking the same language internally, it's not going to serve either of us in the long term. It's going to become unhealthy. And it took strength. And unfortunately, it also meant walking away from my birth mother. That was the hardest thing I'd ever done, because you grow up, this is my mom, no matter what happens. And growing up in environments like that, you don't believe there's a way out. You don't believe that you can walk away from what hurts. But at this point in my life, I said, I've got to live for me. I've got to save my life and figure out who I am, because depression's back, the darkness is closing in, and I feel like I'm drowning.
Mm.
So I started fighting for myself. I began to love myself. And one day I was wine drunk watching Legally Blonde. And I said, well, why can't I go to Harvard? I always want to do it. If Elle Woods can do it, forget boys, forget people. And my friends, you know how it gets when we have our wine time. And I got online, I just started looking up information. And next thing I knew, I was typing away. And a couple months later, I completely forgotten about it. And I get a phone call from an administrator. And I'm like, who is this? And she goes, well, I went to Harvard Extension School, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, right. Harvard's not calling me. She called back for a couple more weeks, and she was like, hey, wait, don't hang up. I'm serious. So I was like, hey, 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 look this up. She goes, Paradise, that is Harvard on the phone right now. And it was, I cried. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. But it didn't happen, and I couldn't afford it. So I decided, okay, it's not the time. I was Miss Atlanta at the time. I was living in Atlanta, Georgia, and we were going for Miss Georgia Nationals, whole state finals. And it was the second day of finals, and I get a call from the school, and they're like, okay, so registration's open, what's it gonna be? And I looked around at the room and I said, I really want to be Miss Georgia, but Harvard's calling. So I told them I paid my tuition. I was like, let's do this. December 5th, I went up for my tour, and they said, okay, so this is how it starts. You're going to start school. I believe it was January 28th was my first day. And it was, I got off the call and everything, and I'm just like, guys, I think I just got in Harvard. They're like, no. I was like, okay, well, we'll wait until we get, the letter. Couple minutes later, I got the email, and I was like, oh my God, I'm in Harvard. Like, this is crazy. It took some time. It took a bit of time for me to settle in and feel like a Harvard student. But I want to say it was that February was my first Harvard ball. And I was like, this is happening. And I told myself, if it can happen for you, it can happen for anyone. And I started telling other people, I said, look, I get it. You don't have money, you don't have support, you don't have any of this. But guess what? I didn't either, and I'm still here. I beat cancer, my brain injury, trying to figure out who I was and where I wanted to be. And though the paths change, I still ended up exactly where I was meant to be.
That is so inspiring. I have like no words. This is just wow. Like, to me, this is mind blowing. So I am very, very proud of you, girl. We just met, but I am so happy for you and so proud of you. And just the fact that you're able to follow your dream, and then you got to the point where it was like Miss Georgia or Harvard, and you still were able to make that decision and go after that dream, even though Miss Georgia was very tempting, right? Wow.
I
Wow.
stayed in the competition, and I ended up winning Miss Congeniality. But I knew after I got that news, I was up here, and I'm walking on stage in my swimsuit. You see a little bounce, and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be bouncing so much. I need to be poised. But I was so excited. I said, you know what? There are going to be other pageants. I love this. And whoever wins this, great for her. She's going to do amazing. But my biggest dream just came true right now, and I need to allow myself to be in that moment. That's another thing. As women, as you probably know, we can be mothers, sisters, aunts, all these. We wear 10 different hats, but very seldom do we allow ourselves to be proud of ourselves, to embrace the moments. We get one thing done and we're like, okay, I got to go to the next thing, instead of just, hey, I just accomplished something huge. Let me live in this moment. And it's hard as a businesswoman because you're constantly, I got to keep going. I got to, the men are going to be 10 feet ahead of me. I've learned to say that's okay because I'm in my own race and I'm going to get to where I need to be when I need to be there.
Wow. Yes. And so let's shift a little bit. And I know that you are running a campaign that's called I Can Be Both, right? I Can Be Both. So tell us a little bit more. How did that start, and where did that come from, and what does it mean to you?
So as it's sad a little bit. I am a fashion model, but I'm also a huge geek and nerd. I love computer software. I love coding. I love anime. I'm Dragon Con is my party time. But being a businesswoman and having all those things together, it's it's interesting to try to juggle all that. It's comfortable for me, but it's not always easy for others to understand. Well, there was a day I was having a board meeting with some potential investors. And the girl who was my assistant at the time was, laying everyone's brief together. And I sat at the front of the table. And I just waited. And the guy started heckling me. We'll call him Heckling Harold.
Mm.
And he started telling me, little lady, don't you think you're in the wrong seat? The boss man will be here any time. He had no idea. No one knew who the boss was or what the project was about. They just knew that they had been asked to come to this briefing. And so I remember the assistant, she's just trying to keep a straight face and she's got everyone's, packets laid face down. And the guy, he's making lewd comments about me and saying, where did you get your lipstick from? Maybe I should get my mother that color, as if I'm just automatically supposed to know what color lipstick or, the great ones. I did, but still, that's not the point. And he was just making assumptions and insinuating like, oh, you're so pretty. What are you doing here? It's if I was not capable of being in that position. So I stood up and I said, may I have everyone's attention? Please turn your briefs over and let's get this meeting started. And on the cover, it said CEO founder Paradise Rodriguez. And I looked at him, I said, and now that we're all on the same page, let's get this meeting started. And he was silent. Needless to say, I never wanted to work with him again.
Mm.
But I felt this big in that moment. I was like, that's not okay.
Yeah.
I'm strong, but the next girl may not be as strong. Or she just might have had her fill of nonsense that it's just that little thing might have pushed her over the edge. But then
Mm-hmm.
there were situations where, like I said, I'm a nerd, where fashion people in the beauty industry are, shouldn't you be in someone's science lab? You're not really one of us. And unfortunately, I was, attacked by feminists on social media. When you look like that, real women don't look like that. You're sending women back. You should put on clothes. If you wanted to encourage women, you wouldn't wear makeup, just all these things. And I'm like, wait, shouldn't we be uplifting each other? Shouldn't we be encouraging each other to be who we want to be unapologetically? And as I started getting more into the business industry, I realized that it wasn't my intellect that men weren't taking serious. It was the pretty girl in the skirt that they weren't taking serious. I said, wait, I can do Fashion Week and find ways to eradicate human trafficking. I can do all of these things. So who are they to tell me that I can't? And who am I to believe what someone else has said? So I started this campaign encouraging other women to believe that they can be both beautiful and intelligent. I don't believe in being just another pretty face. Being pretty is great, is fun, is a very powerful tool, but beauty fades. And if you're not pretty on the insides, what's it all worth? It's for nothing. I'm teaching women to leverage. When I walk into a room, yes, I'm very well aware that my gowns and my sparkles make everyone stop and look. But when I open my mouth, I want to deliver something empowering and life changing, and I want to keep them there. So I tell women, think of it as an advertising package, like a bar of chocolate or a cake. The decorations make you stop and look, but what's inside the ingredients, the flavor, is what makes you stay and keep returning. So treat yourself as your favorite cake. Sure, make your outside beautiful, but make sure your insides are just as delectable as well.
You just answered my next question. I was going to ask you the question I ask every single person that we interview, and that's what radiant beauty means to you. And you just answered it beautifully. So let's shift a little bit and talk about the gift that you have for our audience today.
Awesome. So this is my novel, Finding Paradise. It is it is my heart on paper. And the gift I want to give the audience is a free digital copy. How they can
Great.
get it is they can contact you or myself, and they can go directly to the Amazon and download it from there. If for some reason the Amazon code is not working, all they need to do is reach out to one of us, and I will send them a EPUB format directly to their email.
Yes, we'll actually have that button underneath our video so people can just click and it will take them straight to where they need to go to get your book. And any last thoughts, my dear? Any advice to our audience, to our beautiful ladies on like advice coming from like beauty pageant and from a model? Anything that could help women to shine?
Well, I will tell you, this is my Miss New York crown. Very pretty, but it's material.
Mm-hmm.
What I do with this crown is what people are going to remember.
Yes.
I've gotten to, through pageantry, I've met mayors, I've met governors, and it's been an incredible journey. But I strongly want to encourage you to remember that this is only a material. This is only an outward representation of what you stand for, of your platform. When you go out into that world, I want you to imagine you wearing your crown, walk with pride and dignity and in your truth. It's your journey. People may not understand, and that's okay. But as long as you are true to yourself internally as well, you're going to be okay. Right now, the world is in pain. This virus came out of nowhere, and it's really making us realize what's important. And I just want to say, don't lose your humanity. I know we're scared. It's a lot of misinformation going on and chaos, but don't lose yourself or your humanity. Use this time. We're all stuck indoors. We're in this together, but use this time to work on your dream, work on your project. You know, these couple of weeks I've been inside, I've written another book. I've perfected my formula for my skincare line, and I've taken some me time to catch up on my anime. Time that I didn't have because I was always go, go, go. It's made me stop and say, hey, you know what? I need a couple of days of 8 hours straight sleep. As women, we're up, we're down, we're everywhere, and we don't stop to give ourselves enough time. So I want to ask you all, when you first wake up in the morning, whether you're a mom or not, all of that doesn't matter. Give yourself 10 minutes, whether it's you go sit in your closet and you just sit quietly, you write in your journal, or you just eat a snack in peace. Give yourself the time that you deserve, because if you don't take care of you, you can't be superwoman for everyone else.
Mic drop. Thank you so much for your wisdom, for your time, for your beautiful story. I know it was a hard story to live through, but you came out on the other side, glowing, shining, amazing. As you spoke, I just want you to know I had goosebumps, and I'm sure our audience had the same experience. I connected with you so strongly, and I really appreciate what you said today. So we wish you the best, my dear. Thank you again for being on Face Forward. And thank you, ladies. I really hope that you enjoy it as much as I do, and that you are taking and soaking in all that's coming through to these videos. And I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.